Fantastic. Okay, well, hello all of you. I'm Sarah McDonald. I work for South of Scotland Destination Alliance. So welcome to Developing Experiences. This is part of a series of winter webinars that we have been running from November through to the end of March. There are still a few more, so please do join us if you're interested. And there are recordings of the previous ones that we've had. Experiences is something that we've been developing over the last couple of years. We've actually run 3 of these in person already, but we decided to reduce it down for this 2-hour to see if we could just take advantage of you all across the south of Scotland and elsewhere to understand a little bit more about experiences. It is a big topic, and the ambitions are reduced every time. So this particular 2 hours is really just to inspire you to understand what the potential is and give you a little bit more so you can take it on and develop it further. We will then obviously offer you support and see how we can develop from there. So the agenda today, introductions, pretty much what I've just said. And then I'm going to go straight on to giving you my interpretation of what an experience is, because it's very difficult clearly to understand the difference between an experience and a product. We then have Kathleen Crooney from Mostly Ghostly, who is going to tell us about how we tell that story, which is all about in the telling. We've then got Vicky Steele, Fiona McKinnon and Lizzie Mitchell, who are going to help us with some showcases to actually sort of inspire what we already have in the south of Scotland with 3 different examples. And I'm hoping after this sort of first hour or so, it will mean that we have a little bit more knowledge about what an experience might be, and we can start to think about what we might be wanting to do in our own business. Now, I did send you some questions last night. I don't know if they made much sense, but it was just trying to get you to think about your product and what that means as to how you might then develop it into that experience. We found in person that when we brought everybody to the tables, that after a minute or so, everyone started talk about the ideas they had. So that's what we're aiming for. So we'll split you into we're hoping, if technology works, we'll split you into 5 breakout sessions, and we'll all talk. All of us will be there, so we'll all be sort of supporting. But we'll break out into 5 sessions to just say, do you know what? I've had this idea. What do you think? And just getting a little bit of feedback. That's for 20 minutes. So I'm hoping that will mean each of you will have 4 or 5 minutes in which just to talk about it. If you're not comfortable, then keep quiet and just listen to what other people are saying. But that's the proposal. We'll then come back. Somebody hopefully will take the lead from each breakout just to give a very short 2-3 minute summary of what has been discussed. And then I will touch very briefly on the next steps. So that thought process of actually what you then need to do. And we've got a couple of things that we will be sending to you so that you're not just having it. There's no need to take notes. I can send you the presentation, but actually we have an experience guide which you can look at, and it actually means you can start to think about things as well. And then we will finish at 4. So that is that is the layout, and I will swiftly go into explain what my interpretation of what an experience is. So it's all about the rise of experiential travel, and these 4 bullet points sort of pick it up. If you search on Google, it's amazing the amount of information you get. It's all really quite interesting. But basically, experiential travel revolves around cultural exploration and activity-based travel experiences. Tourists and travelers don't want to simply check things off their bucket list anymore. They want to seek out experiences that enrich them and make them engage with a place and a culture in a more intimate way. Authenticity has become a core principle for lots of travelers today. Tourists want to go beyond gazing out of a tourist bus and actually spend time interacting. And then just to sort of reiterate that, from the Canadian Tourism Commission, they describe that a tourism product is what you buy, and a tourism experience is what you remember. And that, I think, is just the key. It's what the visitor goes back home and talks about and says that they engaged with a local and that particular special memory. Why experiences? What's the importance of experience? As I've already touched on, an experience actively involves visitors so they can feel special. It allows the visitor to immerse themselves in a sense of place and connect with the locals. It highlights the heritage, the culture, the uniqueness of the place, and it means that they can leave with an emotional connection that they want to talk about afterwards. It's an opportunity to offer immersive experiences to connect with places so that they can understand, have a deeper understanding of where they're visiting, so that they can actually engage with the local culture and they connect with its place and its people. Authentic visitor experiences are an opportunity for the businesses, our tourism businesses, to go beyond delivering conventional tourism products based just on goods and services. And that means that we need to rethink the approach, offering the visitor an immersive experience to connect with places, gain a deeper understanding of where they are, and give visitors a distinct, compelling reason to visit. What is an experience? So visitors want to do more than simply see a place. They want to know, they want to be able to do what they want to live it, breathe it, touch it, and become part of it. Visitors want to become part of the story. They need to remember what they did when they were there. They want to learn how to do new things. They need to immerse themselves in cultural activities. They want to interact and connect with local people, and they want to actively participate in our local lives. Let somebody in. There. There are three main elements to an experience. It's the people, the place, and the activity. And when you're doing all of this, just when you think about your own business, you just need to make sure that every experience aligns with your own brand and what you are trying to show. Anything you're doing needs to be unique and individual to each visitor. You need to match their interests. You need to provide a sense of personal achievement, and you need to create their own lasting memory. Look at the whole picture. Make sure you're looking at accommodation, eating out, shopping and things to do. Consider collaborations with like-minded businesses to expand and develop your opportunities that you have, your experience. And you do need, obviously, a clear understanding of what your guests and visitors like and what they actually might need. And the really important thing is that evidence suggests that visitors are prepared to pay a premium for experiences that focus on what is truly a unique or memorable experience. This is all about adding value and increasing the amount of money people prepare when they come to see you. Sorry, okay. So product versus experience. Now, this is obviously something that, I mean, I've done this many times now, and it's still quite difficult to work out. What does it mean if, for example, you've got a visitor attraction? Is that an experience? It's not. It could be. It's how you develop it. But I think this whiskey tasting experience is a really good example of how it develops. So with a whiskey experience, you have your commodity. That's obviously the barley, which then in itself is made into a product, whiskey. That whiskey is something that everybody can obviously enjoy, but it is not an individual experience. You can then have the service which means that the whiskey can then be bought at a distillery or a restaurant, or you go and buy the product in a bar or something. But the experience itself is actually when you meet the master blender, you speak to him and you actually enjoy that whole experience, and you feel that you are having an individual experience that nobody else is having. Basically, you need to focus on the components that combine to make it a memorable and enjoyable experience. We've done this a few times, the experiences in South Scotland. When we did our Story Starts here a couple of years ago, we developed 10 experiences with 10 well-known businesses in South Scotland. And it was all about celebrating and looking at our living history, understanding our stunning landscapes, and looking at the interesting characters that we have living, dead, and imaginary. It was also to do with recognising the region's literary and cultural icons. And we produced 10. We produced 10 experiences, and actually we still use this experience at the moment when we go out to the travel trade to sort of explain the experiences that they can have. And there's lots of opportunities, more eggs on the floor today, obviously, that we can develop this in time. Just to give you an idea of the experiences, so these were the 10 that covered the whole of the south of Scotland. And just to give you a taster, we worked with Ellersland to talk about the Poet's Tale. So we had the opportunity of going to the house that everybody has, but once they were there, they were then able to be immersed in a conversation with a local poet, eat a bannock and have a dram, go for a walk and have that personal one-to-one experience that you wouldn't necessarily get all the time when you go to Ellersland. You visit Ellersland, have an amazing experience, but you come out and you don't potentially meet anybody but the person that sells you the ticket. The next is the Stitcher's Tale. Again, very similar experience. You can have a lovely welcome, buy your ticket, you can go all the way around the Great Tapestry. But what this was doing was providing opportunity to actually meet the Stitcher. So the Stitcher actually would then be able to meet individuals that came on or a group and learn a little bit about the history. Again, that little bit of experience and that little bit of local interaction that you wouldn't necessarily get. And then the last one was the Devil's Porridge. And the Devil's Porridge, of course, again, another fantastic museum where you can go and you see all about the World War I and II ammunitions and how everything was built. But actually how they developed theirs was because they have a creator on site. They decided that they would let you be a creator for the day and actually develop and give you that one-off experience that you wouldn't normally have if you go to Devil's Porridge. Moving on, the other examples that I have spotted over time when I've been looking at experiences, bearing in mind what we have for products in South Scotland. So agritourism, farming, significant. How can that be different? And we obviously have lots of different examples already, but this one was always one that amused me, the tea with a naughty sheep. Apparently this is all about a team bonding exercise where you actually carry out a personality test for your own sheep. And just start that interaction and that chat. It's probably fairly easy, and it was slightly cookie to think about it. The speakeasy tour in Paris will actually book a guide who will then take you around and introduce him to his own friends, his own people, and his own bar. The Ziggy Bay Oman experience, that's actually a hotel, but what they did there was to just give you the opportunity to work out how you arrive at the destination. So it's not just arriving, it's not when you arrive and then you get the fabulous welcome. What they actually had is I'm terrible, is that hand gliding? I can't remember, it's hand gliding or paragliding, but basically they had two options of how you would arrive at the destination. You chose that, and then again, of course, that was your own experience. There's participating in the traditional tea ceremony in Kyoto, Japan. And then the last one was the Aurora Safari camps. And actually, what they provide was really interesting. So warm shelter and booze. They were able to get people to share their own personal experiences. They were able to make sure they provided fabulous views, be it on a seaside fjord or mountain view. They provided hot meals and drinks. They took photographs of the participants there so they could provide them memories. And they lent them equipment if they wanted to take more photographs. And they provided a knowledgeable guide. And actually, if you get all that and the aurora doesn't show, it still sounds like a really fantastic experience. So it's really just making sure you think about what you're doing. And if you're giving so much or enthusiasm or a really good day, it doesn't even matter if you don't actually deliver the final product. So really, just to conclude my bit at this precise moment, creating the experience is the combination of a unique story or activity and how the story is told and taught and the service the visitor receives. So, and this is obviously at the Globe Inn in Dumfries. This is the chair apparently the Burns sat in, and if you sit in it, you have the choice of reading a poem, of which poem I've forgotten, And if you don't do that, then you've got to buy everybody a drink at the bar. So again, some slightly different experience that you have. But it's all how the story is told, which very neatly leads me to Kathleen and telling the story. Over to you, Kathleen.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well, and thanks very much for supporting the workshop today. And I hope that you find my wee presentation helpful in some way. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Kathleen Croney, and I'm the founder of Mostly Ghostly, and we're a collective of storytellers, of tour guides, and we have created quite a diverse range of tours and events across Dumfries and Galloway. So you've got something popping up maybe between Stranraer and Gretna and Dumfries and Wanlock Head, and we try to cover as many places as we can and bring the stories out to people, as well as inviting people to come on our tours. And when I'm touching on this, I would really like you to think as individual people that what really grips you about a story, what pulls you into a story and enthralls you and keeps you interested and makes you want to learn or discover more, because I think that's quite key to some of the things I'm touching on. So whether it's the characters, whether it's the location that the story might be set in, whether it's some of the challenges that are faced along the way and how that they're overcome, whether it's that kind of unique sense of atmosphere that certain places exude, or whether it's that a combination of all of those and that very strong human connection, something that resonates powerfully for you, that stays with you and you take it away and it inspires. So that's kind of like what we try to do through our wee business, is to, yes, get out and present our tours and events, but also to create connections with people and to tell our story in between all these events as well, to keep that interest, inspire people to want to discover what we do and to get out and explore the wonders of our region here. So to take it, I guess, back to its earliest beginnings for me, ever since I've been a wee girl, I've always loved stories of ghosts, of folklore, tales and legends. I loved to be read stories too, but I also loved to share them. And even going back to sort of being age 7 or 8, when I was at Laurie Now School in Dumfries, I took great delight in gathering my friends together. We had a wee ghost club even back then, and we used to gather in the playground and I used to tell them stories, and many of them were made up, I have to say. And there was some exaggeration involved, some arms and legs thrown in and maybe a head or two, but it brought people together. And what really touched me was the reaction of people to those stories, how it made their eyes light up, whether it was with excitement or fear or whatever it was that I was trying to create at the time. But that feeling is something I can't remember, those stories that I told my friends at school, but I can remember how it made me feel and how it was exciting and inspiring and stimulating. And I guess that's something that runs through what I do with Mostly Ghostly. So everyone out there, everyone that's here today, indeed everybody, has got a very unique story to tell and a real passion, I'm sure, for telling it, because nobody knows your story better than you. Nobody can deliver it better than you. And it's trying to tap into different ways as to how you can get that message out there. For us, we do invite, of course, many people to come along and support our tours and events. That's what keeps us going, and we really value that. But what about between times? How do we keep the interest going? Because we're not going to keep the interest going just saying, here's a tour. Brilliant as it may be, it might not keep folk engaged. So what we like to share is things like what we've been up to, research visits, telling our story behind the scenes, how we bring it all to life, how we make it happen. That could be maybe sourcing a costume and how we've done it. We've visited somewhere really interesting that we've been visiting there for the purposes of research, because we're going to be weaving that research into a future tour or experience. So it's kind of carrying people along with you and sharing the things, I guess, that you feel really interested in. Because I think if you're passionate about something, you will carry people with you, because everyone likes to hear somebody talk about something they enjoy. And when it's genuine and authentic, it just sweeps you along. So I could talk about Mostly Ghostly probably all day. So I'm going to move on a little bit to creating an experience. And collaboration is very much at the heart of what we do. We work very closely, our guests come first, and we work very closely with stakeholders to create collaborations and new experiences. And to touch on maybe one of our most recent ones, which I'll just move along to Sarah, if that's okay, please. Yeah, perfect, thank you. Just to touch on a museum collaboration. And we work very closely with local museums, such as Arran Museum, Dumfries, Sanquhar, Tolbooth. And we're on a tour in Arran, which is called Dark Tales of Old Arran, which guides people around the old historic closes and kirkyards and shadowy streets. And we got together with a museum who we've worked with previously, and we were looking at a really exciting idea for how to bring all this together, because the museum had a really innovative exhibition running last year in Annan, which was entitled Dead and the Undead in Annan, and you could see how that would appeal to me and my colleagues. And there was just that natural relationship there. So the idea was that rather than just come to our tour, or rather than just go to the museum, guests would go to the museum of an evening, so they would get this exclusive access to an evening visit, which would really set the scene for some of the unique objects and artefacts therein. They could then explore those, and they would get a short but really informative curator talk, which was presented by Annan Museum's curator, and she would talk about some of the different artefacts and their provenance, and really sort of whetting the appetite. And we had been filmed creating a video of some of the stories in Annan as well, to try and bring the sort of intangible cultural heritage to life as well. And then once people had seen some of these artefacts, we would take them out on their tour and then relate some of them together. So the themes that were touched on quite powerfully in the museum talk could then be developed further. So it was helping to reinforce that emotional connection. So for example, people would come to the museum and they would see a thing called a mort safe. Maybe some of you have heard of it, which is an iron cage that used to be used to prevent bodies being robbed from their graves. They could view something as unique as that in the museum, but then later on, as part of the tour, we would be guiding guests to the sorts of places where those mort safes might be used, and that actually had episodes recorded of body snatching, either attempted or, that had been, people had actually been robbed from their graves. So it was very moving for people, and it kind of related the two together. So it created something that folk talked about, folk discussed on the way around. The more that they discuss these things, the more that likely they are, I guess, to then tell or help us tell our story to other people and get that word of mouth aspect going. So it's really good to see that stimulation amongst guests and how these types of experiences can kind of spark new and interesting conversations. And invariably, it leads to more stories, personal stories, and people then coming to us and asking us questions or asking the museum questions and wanting to go back and visit both, either independently or if we are working together. So what we hoped through that was to evoke emotions, as you can see there, and help to create enduring memories. And going by some of the feedback that we've received since then, that was a really nice, successful experience, a very dark subject, but everybody brought so much warmth and like enthusiasm to it, that it really created a really nice, pleasant feeling around it all. So people could enjoy, if you like, the darker side of storytelling in a safe and friendly and welcoming environment. I'll just ask you to move on, please, Sarah. I should have just said as well there, folks, the idea was to run a couple of the museum events, but they were well subscribed, which was great. So we ran another one, and that has now led to a collaboration with Dumfries Museum on a tour that we've created to explore the witchcraft persecutions, which are very topical and relevant today. And where people get a chance to go to a museum, in some cases, to handle artefacts that pertain to that period in history, and then they come out on the tour, and it's all about that reinforcement and creating that connection. So moving on, just to give an example here, one of many, because let's face it, there are so many amazing people out there doing wonderful work in our region and beyond, in the south of Scotland and the borders. And I want to just mention Queensberry House here. And Miles and Caroline that run the Queensberry House in Moffat. They've won awards for what they do. But what really drew me to them, not just as people, but as their business, whenever I've seen it, is the way that they create a really welcoming atmosphere for guests. And I get the impression that folk looking at that website, folk looking at their social media, well before they've booked, are already getting, if you like, a gateway into all the glory and wonder of Moffat, because there's some wonderful photography, there's a lot of clear collaboration with local businesses, there's been a walking festival co-organised with other members of the community. So people are getting a glimpse into what's out there, and they're seeing those spectacular images. But then Caroline and Miles are showing guests how they can help create that lovely, relaxing experience where you can enjoy all that beauty and wonder, but have all your needs taken care of, that you've got nice food, there's lots of lovely pictures of that. They talk about, where they get their food from as well, and how they make it all a reality, how they cater to different needs. So it's a very individualised, personalised experience. And they're tempting you really on a sensory level, whether it's with food or whether it's with scenery or whether it's with getting fit and healthy, being out walking, they're providing information. Given that Moffat has got such a reputation as being a great place for walks, they're sharing lots of inspiring ideas so that when you come to visit Moffat, you're going to get out and about, you're going to see how amazing it is, but you may well go and explore other areas of Dumfries and Galway, and they're more than happy to help you plan your journey and your experience in the region. So I guess it's kind of what stands out for me is that they're helping guests make those memories. I think something that Sarah touched on at the beginning of the presentation, and encouraging guests to then share their stories of how it felt, what that experience was like for them. And I've really enjoyed working with Queensberry House in the past through the Walk Moffat Festival, and we've forged some really positive connections there too with their guests who have then come along. So they really encourage their guests to get out and attend other events, shop local, eat local, all that kind of thing. So I just wanted to mention them. There's, like I say, so many others. The Devil's Porridge, you showed briefly there, Sarah. They do some amazing work there to create unique experiences. In Ellisland, which is just down the road from me, are really shouting from the rooftops about their Burns connections and creating really authentic and exciting experiences and making the very best of the location and the wonderful artefacts that they have around them. How long have I got, Sarah? I'm just very conscious of time.
Do you know what, you've got lots of time, Kathleen. So knock yourself out, it's fine.
Oh, right, that's fine. So I'll just move on briefly to the next section. And as I say, lots of people out there, so please do take inspiration from what you see around about you. If you're seeing a business that you think is doing a really good job of telling their story, see what you can maybe learn to do yourself, or what you can tease out from your own business that you can help to spread the word about and inspire others. So a story well told, I always think you can have the best story in the world, and there are many out there, but how do you tell it that makes it touch people, that creates a really good story that lasts long after the story has been finished? And I think by being passionate, by being authentic, by really knowing I don't really like the word product as such, but the word, your product, your business, your organisation, your enterprise, whatever it is, it's that knowledge that you have that nobody else has, and you can really bring that to life by kind of unlimiting your imagination and stepping out of the box a wee bit, because you might find a really quirky, unusual way of promoting your business that doesn't really have anything to do directly with the product that you're perhaps trying to sell, but it's drawing people in. It's showing a different side to you and your business as well, different facets of you. People feel that they're getting to know you on a more personal level. And once that connection's forged, that can be really invaluable. And it's a talking point as well, isn't it? I mean, I feel very strongly about sustainability and creating, working and connecting with local communities. That's something that's close to our hearts at Mostly Ghostly. We enjoy the collaborative aspect. We enjoy supporting, and for our small part, supporting local businesses, signposting people to other places, trying to raise awareness of the region, its people, its history, culture and heritage. we can all play a role there, certainly, through our own unique stories. And I think there's that many extraordinary aspects of the south of Scotland, so many. And if, you're spoilt for choice, so really the sky's the limit. Go out and discover. If you're out for a day, say for example, and you're on a wee trip roundabout and you see something amazing that just looks the part, a picture can make a huge difference. It might be a simple thing and we're probably all doing it, but a really nice picture, a picture that says to people, look where we are, come and visit, come and check this out. If you're coming to visit me or stay with me, you could possibly see this, you could go and visit this place. And it makes people feel good and kind of instills against it, especially in these dark days during the winter, a bit of hope, a bit of excitement, something to look forward to, and capturing the very best of the beauty and natural landscapes round about us. And we've got much in the way of culture, such a diverse range of culture here around us as well. So there's lots of opportunities to connect our visitors, friends, guests, potential and actual, returning to the culture, give people other reasons to visit as well, and hope as forge connections that they will come back to us. But I think that underpins it all is that personal touch. To me, that's probably the most important part, to make people feel that you really care about their experience and what they say matters to you. So if somebody comes to you that's maybe been staying with you, for example, and they say, I particularly enjoyed this and I'd love to see more of that, well, that feedback can be used to help you maybe create something different, maybe to expand an element in your business and build in more of an experience. I mean, that feedback can really help you on your way. You don't have to find all these answers yourselves. Ask your customers, ask your friends, see what ideas they have. They might spot an area of potential that you can build, that you can develop. And like I say, the sky's the limit. I think laughter is important as well. We don't take ourselves too seriously here at Mostly Ghostly too. We've had some good laughs with people along the years. And I think lightening the mood, having a wee bit of laugh and a joke where it's appropriate, building in a little bit of humour can really leave a lasting impact as well. Because you've got all the serious stuff and that's important too, but a wee bit of fun, a wee bit of laughter, and just see what you can make with that. And raise yourselves up, raise yourselves above the parapet. Everybody is doing an amazing job, and you're all bringing something incredibly special to the south of Scotland. And if everybody plays their part and helps and supports each other, more and more people are going to come to our area. That's got to be good for all of us. So on an individual level, it's maybe good for you as a business, brings more guests to your hotel, or it brings more people to your restaurant or tour. But ultimately, it's going to help other businesses as well, and then that's going to increase the likelihood of really positive collaborations too. And just to say, if anybody out with this wants to get in touch for it at any point, if that's appropriate, Sarah, please do feel free to pass on my details. Always keen to collaborate and share ideas and support other businesses too. So thanks very much for listening. I hope for my small part that's helped a wee bit.
Oh, fantastic, Kathleen. Thank you so much. And yes, I will share everyone's details if they're all if they're willing or appropriate later. But yeah, absolutely, Kathleen. We've had lots of lovely collaboration with you, and you do add that extra spark everywhere you go. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So moving on now, what I wanted to do was sort of there we are. We didn't see that last slide, Kathleen. There's your much of the press coverage and social media stuff that you get everywhere with all your different awards and things. So,
well, I should have said it's a great opportunity to get your word out, isn't it, through social media these days, and all your other channels. Use everything you can to get it out there. But it is your turn, folks, and look forward to hearing how you progress.
Thanks. So I obviously gave you some examples at the time, something I'd looked at elsewhere across the world, about an experience that might start thinking about your own product. But what I want to do this time as well, to make sure that you weren't just listening to mine and Kathleen, but actually getting some experiences from others that have really started to develop their own experiences in the south of Scotland. So what I'm going to do is introduce first Vicky Steele, who is leading with or has come up with the James Hogg Trail. And Vicky, over to you to give us a bit of background of your story and where you've been and where you're going.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for inviting me along today. Although I'm not solely the person responsible for developing this, it was a huge joint effort, actually. Just a little bit of background about me. I own 2 businesses in the Ettrick Valley, a self-catered property and a pub with bedrooms. And for those of you that don't know where the Ettrick Valley sits, it's kind of the Ettrick and Yarrow Valleys, rather. It's that bit between Selkirk and St Mary's Loch. So lots and lots of green, lots and lots of river space, lochs. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. But pretty much that kind of forgotten bit between the towns, between Selkirk and Moffat. So the Ettrick and Yarrow Tourism Association is made up of all those kind of the tourism and sort of visitor economy businesses within the valleys. We are predominantly accommodation providers, to be honest. So I think one of the challenges that we're always seeing, or sort of trying to challenge ourselves with, rather, is how do we get people, A, to come, but also when they're here, when they're in the valleys, how do we get them to stay for longer and explore more and actually explore across our region? We've had, you know, when we did a piece of research into kind of across the businesses in terms of kind of the type of visitor that was coming and staying with us in the valleys and what they were doing. And it was predominantly, you know, it wasn't rocket science, but it was walking, it was cycling, it was fishing, it was literally just soaking up the phenomenal scenery that we do have kind of within our region. We had some success a good few years ago now with a walking booklet that was distributed through all the accommodation providers, and that ranged everything from kind of really small, easy walks around the village of Ettrick Bridge, and those that kind of went much further up to kind of St Mary's Loch, Grey Mare's Tail. And the feedback from our visitors was that it was absolutely brilliant because it was giving them kind of ready-made walks that they could do as soon as they kind of opened the door of their self-catering property and walked out and could kind of explore and do things at different times, different paces, different speeds, that sort of thing. So walking we've done. We're possibly exploring dark skies, but, you know, Moffat's sort of got that bit for us at the moment, but we're trying to bring it a little bit more over into our side of the valleys as well. But where we ended up was looking at James Hogg. If you don't know, and to be honest, until I got involved with James Hogg and was learning more about it, I didn't know either. But he was born in 1770, was a contemporary of Walter Scott, and was an acquaintance, worked with kind of Wordsworth and Byron and Coleridge and all of those kind of great literary greats. He grew up in the Ettrick Valley and was actually a shepherd, and therefore he became known as the Ettrick Shepherd. And he was then, as he wandered the fields gathering his sheep, would write stories, write music, poems, and he became a kind of a real sort of local storyteller, celebrating the folklore and the tales really of those kind of like late 1700s, early 1800s. And he traveled a lot, as most shepherds used to do at that time. And he would always just take his kind of stories of the valleys with him. But every time he returned, the Ettrick Valley was his home. So his work hadn't ever really been presented in accessible, interesting way from what we'd actually sort of the research that we'd done, and also what we knew of him anyway and the work that we'd done. So if you go on to the next slide, we came up with the idea of coming up with James Hogg Poetry Trails. Now, the picture that you see there, I've got some here, and actually, Sarah, I've got a PDF which I can send to you, which you can kind of circulate to the group later. This is probably the 50th iteration of what our guide ended up look like. I think the first bit was probably longer than all of his works put together, because we worked with James Hogg's great-great-grandson, who had actually visited the valleys and had met with quite a few of our tourism group and sort of talked to him about his grandfather and his love of the region. He now lives in Canada. And also there were a number of sort of hog scholars that we recruited into kind of the process of our research, just so that what we were developing was, I suppose, credible, and coming back to your point about being authentic and actually rooting it in the history. So working with Hogg's great-great-grandson and those sort of university professors who'd been studying his work for such a long time, gave us that kind of instant credibility to what we were doing. That's probably why it ended up being about 1,000 pages long and quite undigestible. Luckily, COVID hit in the process of all of this, and it gave a couple of our group the time and the headspace to really think about the best way of actually presenting this and how we could distill down 1,000 pages of quite dry scholarly text and talking about hog, and then, you know, little sort of bits of scenery within the valleys. We really thought about how best to actually present this in a much more visual, a much more palatable, a much more engaging way. And that's where this trail and the sort of the small booklet format that you see now. And I think we managed to get it down to about 20 pages, 25 pages or something. And it's very, very visual. Sarah, if you could go on to the next slide, then you'll sort of see what some of the pages are. It was beautifully illustrated by local artists. One of our local residents designed the whole thing for us. And each page, each part of the trail, we broke it all down into about 30 different sections. One covers off the Ettrick Valley, and then another trail covers off the Yarrow Valley. And there are natural links into Selkirk, into Moffat, into places like Innerleithen. So for those people who are kind of embarking on the trail, and you can do this in your car, there are bits that you can walk, you could cycle, you can do elements of it on horseback. It's very accessible the whole way around, and you can pick and choose based on this booklet and the way we've now trimmed it down. You can pick and choose different bits depending on where you are on the trail when you start or how much time you've got. But for each kind of key segment, we divided it up, and we've got things like I Spy. So things that you should actually look out for on the route that could be related to Hogg's life, or it could be just an interesting fact about something in the valley. But what we did was basically use Hogg's life, his poetry, his story and his work. We used that to be able to kind of tell the story and showcase the amazingness of the valleys. And so every bit sort of signpost to different businesses. So that picture there, the Ettrick Bridge one, that's actually my pub that I own, and that's brilliant because Hogg used to frequent the pub when he was a shepherd in the 1700s. And now you can come into the pub and you can have a pint, you can sit and watch where he would have parked all his horses up along the side of the road and all that sort of thing. So I think it was very important to us that we weren't just talking about Hogg, but we needed to keep bringing it back to businesses and all the different businesses kind of within the valleys. And I think what we're sort of starting to really see is that it's a much more palatable way of actually learning about the valley's most famous resident, and actually, you know, it's a really interesting way of kind of going out and seeing a little bit more, rather than it just being either a very dry literary guide or a very dry walking guide. It's kind of combining the two. And what you see here just around the bottom of my screen is we wanted something for the children to take part in it as well. So all the illustrations of all the different things, it's kind of now as a pull out in the actual guide. So children, as they're going around with them, you can tick them off, you can color them in. And there's also a kind of the map there for kind of easy use within the rail. So the main thing really about this, it was taking the story of Hogg, which for most people, you know, when you think about kind of old Scots poetry, could be a huge, huge turnoff. Actually, what we've done is kind of pulled it back into the 21st century and used Hogg's story to tell the story of our valley, and again be able to get visitors to explore different bits of the valley that they might not have come across before, and also to go and kind of obviously check out the businesses along the route. Just my final slide, Sarah. Sorry. You know, I think where we are with it right now is that it was probably harder than giving birth, to be honest. So some of these things sometimes are, because you want to get it absolutely right. And we've wanted to be sure that we were still being very true to Hogg, and that we were sort of celebrating him in the right way, but actually doing it in a way that would be really interesting, engaging for the people that are kind of visiting our region. And I think the final product is really testament to that. And it was a lot of hard work to get it to this point. And there were lots of times when we nearly gave up on it, but we kept thinking that actually, no, this is right, this is different. Plus it kind of segued into a lot of the work that Sarah had started from a literary tourism perspective. It sits really nicely across the south of Scotland with everything that's now happening about Burns. Obviously, we've got Abbotsford and sort of Walterscott just down the road. So it kind of fits with the wider story of what we're trying to do with the south of Scotland as well. So it works for us in the valleys, it works for us as businesses, and it works across a kind of a broader range of I suppose that the bigger tourism story that we're all looking at across the south of Scotland. We did a launch of it last year. And so it was through the summer last year. It was distributed through all of our accommodation providers, local businesses in Selkirk. We're giving it away free because we got some funding to be able to kind of produce the booklet. Depending on how it goes, we might look at it becoming a chargeable product, but we'll see when we get to the next print run. We've had quite a lot of PR around it. There was a 15-20 minute piece on ITV Borders where Sandy McCracken went and actually did part of the trail himself, and he talked to some of the people along the route that had been kind of instrumental in actually pulling the guide together. But we're now looking at kind of where we go next with it, and that this is really much about kind of taking it properly digital. And that's a part of a conversation that we're having with SSDA, and kind of how we can fit it more into the literary tourism aspects of the website. So it's not just something that is a physical guide, which, to be honest, the feedback from the people that have been doing it is the fact that they love it. It's a very tangible booklet and a map that they have in their hands. They can mark things on it. The kids can draw on it. And what some of my guests that have been using it have said that it's been a really, really, really engaging way of just looking around them, even if they're just driving from Selkirk to Moffat. They will use the guide and they'll have a look and be able to kind of pinpoint certain bits on the route and relate it back to Hogg. And some of them are talking about his poetry in the car on the way there. And that's really our ultimate aim, is that we are showcasing just the stunningness of the valley, but telling it through Hogg's eyes, as well as so that people can kind of experience what it would have been like in the 1700s. And really, it's probably not changed very much, which is amazing. And, the feedback that we've been getting on it so far. But I think the next challenge for us as a small voluntary sort of tourism association is expanding the reach of it and actually using it as a bigger sort of promotional marketing tool to be able to get people into the valleys in the first place, rather than people finding about this guide once they're here, which is currently where we are with it. But that's what Sarah and I are talking about a little bit more. But yeah, I guess just to finish, I suppose my learning is that it took us a very, very long time, and there was no right way of doing this. But I think what we've come up with is a really interesting way of showcasing what we've got, and also kind of being a bit of a springboard into some of the other work that's happening across the south of Scotland. So that's me. Thank you, Sarah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Vicky. I mean, and you're right. I mean, the booklet is very tactile. It's very lovely. It's very beautifully put together. So you can see immediately people, I want to engage with it immediately just because it looks nice as well. So it just shows you how it all works. And I have to say, your launch last year was inspirational. And I keep talking about it. And that whole opportunity where you basically had the whole community within the pub. We had local actors and local singers doing their bit. We had obviously the great-great-grandson coming in and being shipped in. There was chat and there was food. And while all that was going on and we were having such a lovely time, all enjoying it, a few people who weren't local walked in and saw and immediately felt part of it, embraced it. And I just thought, if we could capture that every single time, if you could lay that on every night, Vicky, and we could all have everybody coming in But actually that opportunity that a visitor was able to walk into a pub and just see all that happening was absolutely an experience they will be talking about for forever, because, you know, it captured my imagination, and I am 24 years on a local, I would say. So thanks so much, Vicky. That's brilliant. Fiona, I'm going to come to you, Fiona, next for Famously Hoik. I'll leave you to do the introductions, Fiona, if you're happy with that. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Fantastic.
Hi, everyone. As Sarah said, I'm Fiona from Famously Hoik. I thought I'd just kind of tell you the Famously Hoik story and give you kind of an outline of where we're at and kind of what the experience is about, just to kind of stimulate and express interest, generate interest in what the whole Famously Hoik experience is about. Basically, Famously Hoik started when these 5 businesses started with them all. They all have a commonality. They're all producers of luxury Scottish products. They're all current and live manufacturing businesses. Textile has been part of Hoik's cultural heritage dating back to 1771. There is a skilled and passionate workforce in the town, and the fact that there is 4 bridges over the River Teviot, which all 5 businesses are united by, and this formed the idea behind it. Ultimately, there was a story to tell and an experience that could be shared all year round. Forming Famously Hoik was made easier to tell the story with the opening of the Borders Distillery in 2018. This gave Hoik a unique offering, as there is not another town the same where the finest collection of premier Scottish products are produced in one place. So Famously Hoik is the cashmere, tweed and whisky town. Famously Hoik is a collaboration of 5 world-renowned businesses that you can see here in the map. Many of these, however, are better known across the world than they are actually in the south of Scotland. We developed self-guided tours, guided tours, and we work with guides to deliver the story and the experience. But what we have found is each time the experience is different, and that's based on the interests of the visitors. It might be the time of day. It might be what's actually being produced at that time, on that very day, and that people that they meet throughout the tours and the experiences develop the experience differently. Each of the businesses do offer something different. So they are 5 businesses offering something different, but all they do complement each other in the way they bring the whole experience to life. If you could move to the next slide, Sarah. For example, Johnson of Elgin, they have a mill tour. Visitors love the fact that they can see the garments being made. They can speak to the operators. The yarn store at Johnson of Elgin is amazing. But the visitors get to see and hear the mix of both old and new manufacturing and all the processes. So they really do see behind the scenes. At both Hoiko and Johnson of Elgin, visitors love the fact that they get a kind of sneaky new look at the new ranges, the colours. And in the case of Johnson's and Lovett, they see garments and tweed that are made for high-end fashion labels, country estates and celebrities that people didn't actually know were being produced in Hoik. On the whole experience really lifts a lid on what goes on behind the scenes in the manufacturing industry that is live and current within Hoik today. The experience is real life. It's not a performance, and it really is what happens within these mills. At the Borders Distillery, the tours are given by distillers, so that this is the distiller's take on their job, and it's what they do, and it's what's important to them, and it's the role that they play. So never 2 tours are the same, because it's real people and real life experiences. At each of the businesses, everybody's encouraged to speak about their job, their roles, and what really comes through, and we hear this time and time again, is the real passion for what they do, and that the role that they have in the manufacturing process. visitors even get the chance to speak to the owners and the MDs as they're walking around the factory, and people love this, that it's real and it's honest. All of the businesses do have shops, and there really is bargains that can be had, and even the most wealthy of people love the fact that they can buy prototypes, they can buy samples, and they can shop at discounted prices. And a kind of hidden fact that a lot of the country sports, the fishermen and the shooters really know, is that Lovett and William Lockheed's are the place to go to buy their jerseys, to buy their outerwear. And it's a firm favourite. There really is something for everybody throughout all of the producers. We have found we've really needed to be very flexible, particularly with the travel trade, and we've needed to tailor make a lot of the tours to suit each group's needs. A bit of a stumbling block can be the fact that operations and timings. At the end of the day, these businesses are all working mills, so consideration has to be given to the shift patterns and production. But for us, what really is the big part of our story and experience is that high-end fashion and products are still being produced here in Hawick today. So we do have an online bookable tour for independent travellers and visitors. We can only deliver this Monday to Friday in the mornings, and that tours really can only be delivered for smaller numbers, such as 6. We do get asked for groups of larger than 6, and sometimes we can split the groups and move them around. There is a guided walking tour, which we use a local gentleman called John Hogg, and he used to work for Johnson of Elgin and did do for over 30 years. And this introduced a new dimension to the tours that we could offer. John has many interests, of those of you that know him, but at the heart of it, he's passionately Hawick, and visitors love the stories that he tells, whether it be about the manufacturing process, the individual business, the stories about the town as he walks people from each of the businesses. We have also worked with Stuart from Tweed Valley Blogger Tours, which I'm not sure if he's actually on today. And he's provided tours for international visitors. So for Famously Hawick, it's very much about telling the story. It's a live experience. It's about being authentic and being real and working together really with like-minded businesses and getting other organisations and tourism businesses to help spread the word to the visitors that are here. Maybe put the next slide on, Sarah, please. Thank you. What all the businesses were doing and have been doing for a long time is sustainability is at the heart of the businesses. They probably weren't telling people as well as they could have. So encouragingly now they are telling people, and it's very much part of the visitor experience when they're here. We had a visit last week from a London agent, and they could not believe the measures that all the businesses were going to manage every last bit of scrap material and waste that they had. You know, it might be unpicking a garment and starting again and reusing it, winding it into bales, or it could be that the ends are being used in carpet or bedding, or in the case of the distillery waste, fertilizer for tomatoes at a local farm. They gave us a quote when they left, and it really very much kind of sums up the experience of Famously Hawick. Love seeing the real life industry and the passion of the workers. Now I really understand what goes into producing those wonderful garments and products. Blown away by the factory. Love the fact you use all the waste materials and nothing is thrown away. A really memorable experience. There have been challenges along the way in creating Famously Hawick and developing the product, and it's nothing that's ever going to stand still. And we find it's always immovable. But because we've got the foundations in place, we're now delivering an experience that is constantly evolving, but in a really good way, because we're telling a story of something that's been around since the 1700s in a way that people get today, and that they can see the value and the quality that's coming from these luxury garments that are being produced in Hawick. And maybe the next slide, Sarah. Sorry, it's been a really quite a short summary of what we're doing, and I hope it gives you some idea of how we've pulled it together, or kind of what we're delivering. But if anybody has any questions, my details are there. Just get in touch. We're happy to help.
Thank you, Fiona. Absolutely fantastic. And you know, as with my experience with the Hog Trail, I've obviously been able to enjoy famously Hawick a number of times, and actually that product of what is provided. And you're absolutely right, to be able to walk around one of those mills and talk to up to 20 people, all with different jobs, that actually then feed into each of those products, get to know a little bit about them, the chat that goes on between them. You really do feel like you're part of it. And just also that whole extra element of seeing that piece of design and wear, which you're then not allowed to take a photograph of, but you're allowed to be there and see it. It is absolutely fantastic, and it really is an experience that if you haven't done it, you will need to go and explore. So thank you so much for that. No, it gave a real good flavour of what you can do. And now Lizzie, thank you. I'm going to pass over, Lizzie, over to you. An SB farm is the new monitor farm for the south of Scotland. We're really excited to have it. Obviously, agritourism is a significant element of what we can provide in the south. An SB farm is leading the way, and Lizzie Mitchell is going to just give us a little bit of an explanation as to what they're doing. Over to you, Lizzie.
Okay, hi everyone. I firstly got to apologise. I am in a room that's just next to our soft play, and it's about to be the end of school. So if it gets quite noisy, it's not screaming, but no one's in pain. It's just children having fun behind me. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'm Lizzie. I've worked for an SB since 2021, so just after COVID. So it was quite an interesting time to come into quite a young business that hadn't really got started itself. So my aim is to just give you a little snapshot about what we do at an SB and who we are as a team. Thanks so much there's been some wonderful points made, and as I've been listening, I've been jotting things down, trying to see if I can add anything in. Right, so if we could, Sarah, if you could drop to the first slide.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so an SB farm is about a mile outside of Castle Douglas. We're an agritourism business, opened in, like I say, July 2019. So it's been built on the McMeekan family dairy farm, which covers about 700 acres. They milk around 300 cows, if anyone's into their farming facts. Like so many places, COVID hit just shortly after we opened. And so in March 2020, we were closed. And so it wasn't really until 2022 that we had our first fully open year. So really, when we're looking back at events and things that work for the business, we don't really have very much to go off. We've only got 1 or 2 years to sort of look back on. So like I say, it's been a really interesting job to come into, because you're really starting from scratch. The team, it's made up of about, I'd say, 5 full-time staff, the core team, and then we have some wonderful seasonal staff that really fill in the gaps in between. That team, like so many businesses, can be quite small during the off-peak time, and then we welcome lots of students during summer events, that kind of stuff. Right, skip to the next slide, thank you. Yeah, as you said earlier, we've just been announced as the Scottish Agritourism Monitor Farm for the south of Scotland, which is hugely exciting. We're definitely still learning all about it, so I'll do my best to briefly explain it. But it is a 3-year programme funded by the Scottish Government. So it's been established to provide expert and peer group support, knowledge exchange, skills development and confidence building to a wide range of agritourism and rural businesses across Scotland. So basically, we've been hosting meetings, we will be going to other businesses. The next meeting actually is just next week and it's sort of regarding market positioning. We're really hoping to grow the business over the next few years. see turnover increase and just bring as much as we can to the area. And this programme will hopefully help us and so many local businesses do that. So it's very, very exciting. So stay tuned for more info about that. All right, Sarah, could I get the next slide? Thank you. So just thinking back to what Sarah started with, what do we offer? So what's our product? What are we selling? I'm not sure how many of you have maybe been to an SB, but it's great for families. We've got a soft play and outdoor play, which is currently closed, but it will open in March. We also have a cafe restaurant called the Farmhouse Kitchen. We've got a gift shop and a garden centre. We do run seasonal events throughout the year. So what's coming up next, it'll be Easter is our next big event time. So we do our Easter egg hunts, we do scavenger trails. Through the summer, we're hoping to be launching some new stuff this year. Halloween is huge for us. We have a pumpkin patch, we do spooky walks, and then Christmas, you will see me dressed as an elf for pretty much the majority of December. Yeah, we do all of the stuff. The kids love it, but we're also looking to expand into stuff that the whole family can enjoy. So not just the kids, but grandparents too, and everyone in between. As a business, we've faced lots of challenges just in the few short years we've been open. COVID first of all, and then more latterly the cost of living crisis. It's really affected the team, but we're hopefully coming through. Yeah, I think everyone's got something to say about that. Sarah, could I get the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'd say that the core thing about an SB is it's fun for all the family in the heart of the country. As David says just here, his ambition has been to bring the public onto the farm for a fun learning experience that are given insight into dairy farming and be a final destination for customers looking for high quality offering of local fresh food. So the experience that we're trying to give people is to create core family memories by bringing the farm here to life. We understand that we've got a lot of visitors to an SB that have never stepped foot on a farm before. Some of them just want to come and play or eat. Others want to go and experience the farm. So that's what we're trying to sort of drive here at an SB. That is the experience that we're putting out there. We're definitely, I'd say, still learning about what people would like from an SB and what works for us, which is key. It doesn't come automatically when a business is opened. It does take a few years. And like I say, with the challenges that we faced through COVID, through various things, it is still a learning process for us. But we're definitely getting there. And we're hoping that the experience that people are getting is improving year on year. Yes, always looking to improve it. Sarah, could I get the next slide? Thanks. Okay, so like I say, we want to create a fun family environment for all age groups to get involved. So as you can see here on the pictures there, we've got traction trailer rides that run around the farm. These are a highlight, especially in the summer. It's so lovely to get families, like I say, from all backgrounds, from cities, towns, even places just down the road in Dumfries that haven't been on a farm. It provides a safe opportunity to get people onto the farm, teach them something new. For some people, you're sort of giving them the details, how many litres of milk a cow gives you. For other people, you're explaining where the milk comes out of the cow. So it's that wonderful time where you can take people on that journey through an SB and explain or tell them the story of where we've come from and how it all works. It's honestly, I'm sure everyone has got their own stories of when they've been somewhere and they've tried something for the first time. We get to see that happen pretty much every day on a traction trailer tour, which is fantastic. Now we're trying this year definitely to add more to what we're offering. Probably more the animal side of things and the restaurant side of things. We're looking to add to our menu. We want to put something out there that's a little bit more different, a bit more eye-catching, that's going to draw people in, that's not just somewhere that serves soups and toasties. We want to sort of become well known for really lovely, tasty, delicious food. But we also want to create that fun farm environment. So people can come in and tell their friends, tell everyone that they've seen, say, go to an SP. The kids had a great day. But yeah, working. Could we get the next slide, please? Okay, great. So let's see. So here at an SB, hopefully the customers get quite a personal experience. Like I say, that definitely works when we have our experiences like the traction trailer tour. And like I said before, it's something that we're definitely working on. We want to add more personal experiences to people's visits to an SB. But what we've definitely found is that people love that link, that one-to-one. They want updates on the animals, the staff, the history of the farm. They want to know who owns it, where they are, what they're doing, staff stories. So here in the picture there we've got Andy. He works on the farm, but he's also married to somebody that works in the visitor centre. And people love to know just little tidbits about a business, and it really helps bring things to life, I think. It also makes them feel like they've been told something that's a little, I don't know, a bit different, that they're quite special. Now, an SB is first and foremost a dairy farm, and David, my boss, will say I'm a dairy farmer and I know about cows, and that's what I know about. So we're definitely learning that we do, to get the best out of the experience we're providing, we do need to sort of focus on that. So we're trying to drive the farm more to the front of what we're doing, especially with our experiences, tours, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, for 2024, we're trying to focus on farm interaction and bringing customers and visitors to the farm and to build on that experience, because it is what we do best and it's what we know. Obviously we're working away at everything in the background, but dairy farming is where it's all started, and we're trying to remember that and really focus in on that and put the fun into farming and connect people to it, because so many people just don't know that much. They haven't had that opportunity. So that's the plan for the next year. Could I get the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, sorry if I'm repeating myself a little bit here. So the main goal for 2024, like I just said, is to become a bit more interactive. We want to increase our offering, become more appealing to customers. We would like to work on the animal feeding and petting opportunities that we have at the outdoor play. We do have animals at the minute, as you can see some of our lovely alpacas here. We have rabbits, guinea pigs, goats, lots of very friendly goats. And we've got a few animals that will be joining us in the next year, which is quite exciting. But at the minute, we have a few limitations on what we can do, but we're hoping that we can sort of get people in, do some more feeding, get the animals out, get them petting them, add that link to the customers and the animals. I've got big plans for some extra farm tours, but I'm just trying to currently persuade David that this is a good idea and that should be let loose with customers on the farm. Events, we're always trying to tweak events, see what works. We're launching new ones all the time. Some of them are working, some of them aren't. Again, you just have to listen to your customers, because they will tell you, they'll be quite honest. We do love talking to our customers at the front desk. That's where everyone comes in, buys their tickets, gets taken to a table in the restaurant. This is where we can talk to people, find out what they like. And it's a real, like I say, people will, if you ask, they will tell you. So it's a really nice opportunity to sort of get to know our customers, see what they think of things. And we have a lot of repeat customers, which we're very fortunate to have. We have families that come to soft play, that have memberships, but we also have people coming to the restaurant that really, you know, either enjoy our food, the cafe, the location. It's really nice. We've got that really good interaction between the staff and the customers, which we're very proud of. and we constantly want to build on. The final slide, Sarah, if that's right. So a little bit about marketing. This is really sort of telling the story about what we do to people that aren't at an SB and don't necessarily come here all the time. We like to think that we are getting to know our audience quite well, but we're definitely still learning what works. We've had a few trials of different marketing techniques in the last year or so. Things like radio. We have tried marketing via the radio. It was expensive and it didn't really work for us. People told us that they'd heard it, but they didn't come in because of that. They just had heard it. Local news and articles, very hit or miss with us. Again, it's quite expensive and we don't always feel like we get that much back, but then some articles can be fantastic. We are quite a small business, so we don't have a huge budget for marketing like so many places. So social media for us is an amazing free tool that we rely on. We are mainly Facebook based, which we are working to get away from. We know that Instagram is just sitting waiting for us to expand. TikTok as well, my goodness, everybody is talking about TikTok, and it goes over my head, but I need to we need to get into TikTok and see if we can get some something out there, and maybe starting a YouTube channel. We're thinking of something along the lines of a Farmer David character that, well, obviously David, that can come in and lead the channel, do day-to-day around the farm, all that kind of stuff. It seems to be what people really are interested in, so we'll see how that goes. Definitely for us, people posts work best. They like to link with the staff, with the people on the farm, with the animals as well. That's what works best for us. And so that's really our plan going forward, is driving the people that work here and putting faces to the business. Everyone loves a little smiling face on a newsletter, so that's what we'll be doing from now on. And yeah, that's everything from me. Sorry for dribbling on a little bit.
Lizzie, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. It's absolutely brilliant. And I know from my own personal experience, my family, you know, I come from a family of non-farmers that have married into it, and the excitement they get when they get to feed a lamb is more than anything. And you know, for us, it's everyday stuff, but it is quite incredible how that experience will just be the bit that's reported back when they go back down south. So yeah, I understand.
Miss that out. Like, they just don't get these opportunities. It's maybe something that's discussed at school, but it's just completely missed. So it's really lovely to provide that opportunity for people.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lizzie. Right, what I wanted to do, oh, there we are, nice thank you with you in your hat. What I want to do now is to go into breakouts. Now, I gather we are reduced in number, is that right, Gowan? And therefore, perhaps we'll just reduce it down to, say, 3 breakout rooms. So we've just got 4 of us or so in each one. How does that sound? Is that good? And if you give me the thumbs up, then we can sort of tell everybody we'll go into different break. Are you going to press the breakout room? You are. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to break out in one second. It was really just for those of you who are listening in, just to potentially start to think or raise something that you are thinking about. So we're reducing the numbers down to make sure that you know, you don't have to worry about saying it to the wider group. I don't think we need to keep it for let's sort of see how we are in about 10-15 minutes, Gowan, and I'll WhatsApp you separately just to sort of keep in touch. But let's see if we can get that, and then we can feed it back and see if there are any wider questions that are coming in. But those questions I asked you yesterday in the email, you know, to remember from everything that everyone's just talked from, you know, Kathleen, Vicky, Lizzie, and Fiona. You know, what is it that you enjoy? What is it that when you start to do it, you see the fun as well, because you get that involvement, and you will know what happens. You know, what is unique? That's more difficult to work out. But what is that one thing that you just know you do slightly different to anybody else? or what is that positive piece of feedback that you've received from a visitor that you've just thought about? Oh, that's really interesting. I've never really taken that any further. So it's just starting to get the nub of an idea that you can start to develop your experience on top of the visitor product you have already. Good to see you all back. I suppose it would be quite interesting to see if anybody in each of the groups has a sort of a comment to feed back. From the group I was in, I had Ian and Heidi with two different experiences. I mean, Ian, would you like to give a summary of what you felt was talked about, or just yourself, and a bit of what you took from Heidi, rather than Morag and I wading in? Just
yeah, no, I think it's useful. I mean, I think what was a takeaway is that both Heidi and myself, in terms of we're quite early on in the development of these sort of experiences. We've got the ideas and the drive. It's just getting that getting it over the line and getting a bit of feedback to then be able to tweak. But for me anyway, is tweaking things a little bit and getting it ready for launch. I think Heidi was mentioning sort of launch in of some of the elements that they're developing this summer, and we're probably in a similar sort of position to hopefully be able to roll some things out this summer. But having been in one of the previous SSDA workshops a couple of weeks ago, that's it was quite telling that we need to be thinking about 2025 already as well, which is which is always a bit daunting, but
it is. And I have to, I mean, just picking up what you were saying, Ian, about your your 3 and your 5 day ideas, which I know a little bit about, which sound amazing, but actually just you then suggesting you might be looking at a smaller thing, just that makes it slightly more manageable, and therefore widens your appeal to a wider network as well that can't get that. Heidi, is there anything else you wanted to add to that conversation?
It's just life's never easy out there at all in this business. But if everyone had a magic wand, it would be wonderful. But I think working amongst tourism and everything else is one of the most rewarding experiences you're ever going to get. And every day is a school day. Again, I mean, like I say, I've worked in this a long time, but it's the same idea, just different products. So instead of selling woolly pulleys, I'm now selling whiskey. I know which I would prefer, but it's exciting, and it's every day you're meeting somebody new, and like I say before, every day is a school day, so you never ever stop learning.
Brilliant, thank you, Heidi. Just looking at the screen, knowing that this week. So I mean, Tanya, would you like to just give? I don't know which room you were in, but obviously Triantium is significant to the Scottish Borders and all you're doing. Have you got anything you'd like to feed back from either the group or yourself personally?
Well, we talked a little bit about the importance of marketing and different types of channels will work for different people, and different types of channels will work in different seasons as well. So just keep trying on different things. I really enjoyed the presentation by everybody. We got a little bit of feedback from Fiona of ideas of what to do, what not to do. I don't know what else to say. I'm a little bit lost.
That's great. I know we've been working with Triantium, of course, with our experiences already, and how we developed that whole. Support. You've got your museum, but your actual ground is that farmer's field, and how you then are developing that, and you really are capturing that now. But it's not easy. It's working out how you can take someone to a field and they feel like they have been to a Roman fort. So you've got a challenge.
To that respect, we are trying to develop our experiences like Ian and Heidi, I think, for this year, and we're trying to launch in in the spring, actually, for us. So we are really working right now really hard to develop that VR experience to plus hands-on experience as well. So learning from everybody and their journey, even though they're very different experiences, farming versus famously Hoig, they're all very different, but they all have that same line of telling your story, knowing your story, that contact with people, so important, and developing those extraordinary memories that people are gonna take. So
fantastic, great, thank you. Rather than going to, with all of you, anybody got any other thoughts? Dinah, Keith, who, you know, anything else that you'd like? Fiona, any sort of initial gut reaction thoughts that you might like to just sort of add to the group?
I got a slightly different perspective. I'm the archaeologist in Scottish Borders Council, and one of the things that struck me is great work from all the collaborators and contributors of the talks that we heard before. I was thinking, how do we get the likes of the local societies, the history, heritage, archaeology societies that are scattered across the borders, where it is their sort of 5 to 9, their hobby, their interest, their experience, their knowledge of their local areas into this 9 to 5 world of tourism. So that's where I was thinking, yes, we've got so much of a product of their local area and promoting of that history, that unique heritage that we've got in the borders. How do we move across into that more tourism world and their promotion equally of their day-to-day events as well? That's something I think is a pointer for me, that there's a bit more work, a bit more help of confidence for people.
Brilliant, and you're right, there's that passion is absolutely, you ought to be capturing it. That absolutely provides, I think, the experience. Before we lose, I know, you know, on reflection, 2 hours possibly has been a pressure on people's time. So I want to wrap it up rather than sort of just keep going. But what I just wanted to sort of was sort of just touch on. So I'm going to go quickly back and share my screen again, if I can, very briefly, if I can work out how to share it. Now make me do something else, go away, share, okay, so are you, no, you're not seeing it, are you? It's still me just looking at myself. Hold on, share. Right, okay, hold on 1 second. So hopefully you've got back to the breakout. So what I just wanted to summarize, and we've been talking about it already, is really just about creating your own experience. And hopefully today has inspired you to work out how you might develop it. And actually, it's just a question of having a bit more brainstorming and planning out those next steps. But what I will send to you after this meeting and to everybody else who's been here today is the experience guide that we produced a couple of years ago, and the start of a questionnaire that again asks you some questions so you can actually start to develop that experience that then in time you can then go on to market. Gowan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, it was just a reflection on what we were talking about in our room, and it ties into what you're saying here, is about when you're thinking about creating and you're thinking about your pricing, which we started to touch on. I think the key thing is don't undervalue yourself or your product. That's all I wanted to say.
You're absolutely right, and as you know, that whole added value, people will spend more money on things. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. And in the document I'll send out, there is something as well to start working out how you develop your price structure. So hopefully it helps. But basically, just to sort of summarize, this is all about creating your experience. You need to recognize, you know, what is unique about your business. What are the stories you choose to tell your families and friends? When you go and tell people about what you do and you start to tell those stories, if they amuse you and amuse your family, the chances are it will amuse your business to you as well. What distinguishes you from the norm? And what are the opportunities you can add? You know, what collaboration with a local community business can you provide? What skills of the staff that you have that you're not necessarily using on a day-to-day basis can you start to develop? is the gardener actually a fantastic raconteur that you can develop and bring into the meeting? Are they good at some sort of training, that sort of workshop element about when you're in the garden? Let the guests do the work. Let them herd the sheep. Let them harvest the grapes. I mean, I'm not sure how many grapes we have in Scotland, south of Scotland, but if you have grapes, let them do the work. Take them behind the scenes and see what's going on, and give them that opportunity to be hands-on. Create that have a go attitude. And that's it really. We are here to offer you further support. You all know Morag, at least I hope you all know Morag, who is heavily involved in supporting and working with the travel trade. So if you ever have your experience ready to go that you'd like to take it to that travel trade market, Morag would be incredibly keen to hear. She has got a couple of one-to-one workshops that are going, not one-to-one, but some more detailed workshops taking place in the near future. We are, as a team, always willing to support you. And it might be that if you come back, there might be opportunities to develop, for example, a particular theme and make some introductions with somebody. The fact that, obviously Keith, Tanya, and Ian are here just with their archaeology hat on. There might be some sort of thing that you might fancy just talking it through and seeing how it develops further. So that's it really. Thank you very much all for coming. That's me. I started to put everybody else's names down and then realised that no one's going to be able to read it. But I will follow through. Fiona, Lizzie, and Kathleen, I'm sure you are willing for me to share your contact details. So I will do so when I send out the experiences guide. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much all for coming. Really, really appreciate it. And no doubt we'll catch up with you all very soon. Many thanks.